Hi guys, and welcome or welcome back. Today I would like to show you guys some handy gardening tips. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you with our little test house here is I'm going to show you how to create natural looking garden paths. So if you go to build mode and you just place something regular, it's always going to be in a straight line. Even if you use some quarter tile placement and try and make it curved, it's going to have this grid kind of effect. All right, if you do want a straight one, but you don't want to use the regular tiles, you could do this, and then after framing it in, you can just use your regular terrain paint and you could have a straight line and a straight path like this. Okay, so that's possible as well. But let's say you don't want a straight path. You want it to look kind of a little bit more natural. Maybe some plants are growing over it on the sides. Then let's curve it a little bit. Let's give it some character. All right, now you can use other terrain paints around it to give it a little bit more of a natural look. Let's get some grass that's fit with this. So that is tip number one, to get a more natural looking garden path. Tip number two that I have for you is also with regards to terrain paint. You could layer terrain paints. Layering gives it a little bit more depth. Otherwise, it tends to look flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use different terrain paints and I'm going to just layer them. Some places I'll press a little harder or hold my finger on the mouse for a bit more, and some other places I'll do it slightly less. If you want the area to look like the grass doesn't want to grow there, you can just use some dirt. But you can kind of blend it in. You see, like what I did over here. It does have the look that maybe the grass just started growing there, or the grass doesn't really want to grow there, but it's not just brown. It kind of blends in with the green around it, which would make sense because it just looks much more natural than when you just use one color all the way through. And you can also use different greens. There's a lot of different terrain paints that you can download. A lot of mine are custom that I downloaded. We can quickly check if it tells you from where. Let's check this one. For instance, is another dirt. This one is a Sims 4 texture by K Hippie, and they converted it. It's been converted by Sim Santo. So, you know, there's a lot of them like that. I think I have quite a few of them. This one, goodness, what a name. Lover Sims. Wow. On Tumblr. That's an interesting name. I did not realize that when I saw that. Okay. Anyways, moving on. There's loads of different ones. This one is also a Sims 4 texture. And this one as well. I think most of mine probably is. Here's a 3:2 conversion. Autumn grass. One. A manicured golf fairway. Watered. Trade Wind Sims Designs. Cindy. Let's redo that. Trade Wind Sim Designs, Cindy, England, 2005. Okay. So, yeah, you can find them all over. Tumblr is a good place to go to for terrain paints. I see that most of these have come from there. Alright, so now that we have made our lawn look a little bit more natural and we have a little path over here, these are doors as well, so perhaps we should, not that big, give this a little path that joins that path. There you go, something like that. And it also looks a bit more natural. Okay. Tip number 3. When you build on just this lot is flat, right? It has absolutely no hills, no bumps. But when you build on just a flat lot, it can look a bit boring. Of course, you do have to keep in mind that your Sims have to walk certain areas, so you don't want to complicate things for them. But lifting a little bit of the landscape does make it look more interesting. So let's see, where can we do this where it wouldn't matter if our Sims can't walk there? Perhaps here at the back. So let's say here where the grass didn't really want to grow, we are going to slightly lift our terrain so it looks a little bit more natural, because very few times will you actually find that your garden plot will be level all the way through. I haven't really encountered that in real life. Here and there you will find some different levels. Now, of course, because the house is built here already, it won't want to do it everywhere. Okay, but let's say this is the part that's lifted up slightly. Now, it looks kind of funny when we have the grid, but when you turn it off, it looks pretty natural, right? Okay. So now, let's do some gardening here. Now, my recommendation for this is not to put plants that need to be watered. So custom content is your friend over here, because you do not want to have to water plants and your sim tells you they can't get there. So move objects on definitely is a cheat that you would need to use. I'm using an alias because I have a startup sheet, so I just type MON. And then I'm going to turn my grid off. Snap objects to grid off. For me, it's just S off, and very easy. I really highly recommend a sheet like that. I'll make a video in which I tell you all about it, but it just helps, because if you have to type in all these long sheets, then you'll never do it. And it's great to build and decorate with. Okay. So here we are. Let's go to our gardening area. Now I can almost give you the next tip with this one. If you are just choosing things that's the same height, that's kind of boring. It's really nice when you use things that have different heights. So let's put in this little tree. By the way, it comes with Prison Break by, is it Catty VIP? Looks like. I have a set like that, and this was something that came with it. And here's a banana tree. Don't know if these things would grow in the same region. Probably not. Okay, this one comes with the Sims. Your biggest fan palm tree. Let's put that there. Maybe this will also not be in the same area, but okay, we'll ignore that for now, just for... Another thing that I do have that I also recommend, you get a mod where you can slightly go over the edges of your plot with decorations. And this is nice if you want to kind of create the idea that not everything is just inside of your plot and it ends in a straight line. You know, doesn't look completely natural. So here we go. We have things with different heights. This dead tree comes with the game. Yeah, it looks like it came with the game, so great. Now we're going to use a few shrubs. Again, I have quite a bit of CC, but I'm going to look into things with different heights, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so here's a leafy plant that's a little bit taller. I'm going to place some higher up and some lower down, because that means I get a height variation. Let's see what else. Granite Falls. Oh, by the way, that leafy plant was by Steffor. That creator is on the Sims resource, as far as I'm aware, and I have quite a bit of their stuff. Then this one is from Granite Falls, converted from the Sims 4. And there is a site, www.thenwald.com. Okay, so somewhere there. And again, I'm placing one of the plants higher, one lower. And these are plants that take care of themselves. You don't have to water them, which is great if you're doing this, because you don't want the situation where you have to water a plant and you can't get to it. So there's another mod out there that's something along the lines that you don't have to take care of plants, they're just kind of taking care of themselves. Now, while that's not 100% realistic, it just helps you a little bit, so you don't have to struggle if you can't reach a flower bed. So that's something you can keep in mind. All right, now another tip. You should angle your plants. Don't put everything down in a straight line. That's boring. So here I'm using that where I can go slightly over the edge of my lot, and I'm angling it in different ways. So it's not just this straight line of plants, because plants don't grow like that. Okay, it just keeps it interesting. Plants often also grow in groups. So grouping plants together helps because it looks a bit more natural than when you just have one of each. So here's some small lavender, small bunches of lavender. Place a couple of them. Maybe I should tell you where I got that from though. Lavender created by Besson, and there's also a site for that, Besson Sims 2. Okay, and these ones are also from Granite Falls. So that's Sims 4 conversions. You get them in some different colors, different sizes. And as you can see, I'm placing plants off the grid, which is what you need because you don't want it to look like there's a grid. Otherwise, it doesn't look natural. There we go. I'm also layering my plants so they kind of overlap each other because that also looks more natural. Plants just don't grow in a straight little area blocked off with just their own. All right, something else that I'll mention to you. I've mentioned this before many times. Terrain paint is your friend when it comes to placing plants because you want it to have a bit of shadow around it. You want there to be some soil showing up. Plants don't just grow with grass immediately starting up right where they come out of the ground, out of the soil. So place a little bit of terrain paint around. Do you have to fill up every single area with plants? No. Let some soil show like this. Because that is more natural, that's more realistic. There will be some areas where plants won't grow. There we go. All right. One more thing that you can do over here, especially if it's in your Sims yard, this would be realistic. Lots of people add garden lights in their flower bed. Okay, obviously it's not ideal when you want to water your garden, but here and there you could have a little garden light peeking out from between your plants. And that's actually really nice when it becomes nighttime and you have the lights on. It will illuminate this. It will look very nice. Okay, let's turn off our grid and see what it looks like. There you go. You have a natural looking flower bed that have different heights that you can view from different sides, and just look how nice this looks. There you go. All right. So we have a little corner there. That's well made. All right. Something else that you can use to your advantage is you can decide whether you want to use symmetry or not. Now, my recommendation is if you want to make something look like it's growing there naturally, do not use symmetry. Because in nature, things don't grow 100% symmetrical to either side of a path or something like that. It just doesn't work that way. But if you want it to look like your sim made some formal garden, then symmetry is okay. You can actually make use of symmetry then. So let's say you have a little garden path here. I just see that doesn't 100% line up with our door. And of course you do want it to look a little bit realistic as well. So let's just... What I like about the green here is it kind of looks mossy, which, you know, is nice. Okay, so here we're going to decorate around this path to the front door. These plants are very handy, by the way. It's a 4:2 bougainvillea. They come in bigger, not bigger sizes, they come in different sizes. And this is Island Living, from Island Living, and it's converted by Suratan. I'm probably butchering that name. Okay, so you can change it so it's just foliage. You can have different types and colors of flowers. You can change the color of the leaves. So let's place some of these. Now, it's boring if I just place all of them facing the same direction, but it can be very nice if I change the direction. So I play with testing cheats enabled. It's just so much better for me because I can change everything in a heartbeat without having to type in everything all the time. And I haven't had any trouble with my game. I know some people says it messes up your game. I really haven't experienced that. Look at this. Just by layering it, what effect you get. Here's another plant by Stefan from the Sims resource. Little trees. There you go. I am not going for the 100% symmetrical look. I'm just placing them so they're kind of all over the place. And let's see what else we have. 4:2 bulbo bush, converted by Lena Cherie. There we go. Let's place some of them. So it's also nice to have a good balance between shrubs and plants that grow low. I think that's always nice. You have some ivy, Old Mill Untamed Wool Ivy, and this is by Veranka. It's converted from the Sims 3 store, and made seasonal. So it basically changes color according to the season. So there you go. You can even have a little corner of your house that have some ivy on it. There's different ones, and you can decide how you want to place them, but there we go. We have some ivy growing up. All right. So as you can see, this garden path now looks very nice. All right. And this is flat, but again, you could change that. Just keep in mind your Sims routing and also whether you can get to flowers. Now the next step I want to show you is if you do want to use some of the regular plants that come with the Sims 2, here's some marigolds for instance, these are in squares, you know, they fit on the grid. But you could layer them and not use the grid. Look at what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make it so that these flowers are not giving you a square effect. Now, of course, you still have straight lines, even if you change it so, you know, you change the direction, but that is where you use other plants to help you. So for instance, I'm going to use these. What are they? Let's see. Mesh by Manuela. Lucky Panther. Okay, so don't know. Hope that helps you. But handy plants to have. I use them quite a bit. So look at what I'm doing now. Now I use them in between with some other plants. Like this. And this is also by Stefan. And now I've created a completely different look. I do have my Sims 2 plants in between, but you cannot tell that it's on a grid because look at what I did with the plants around it. Right? It looks lovely. I think your Sim should be able to reach these and water them. All right. But of course, you may get the situation where you place them somewhere where your Sim tells you they can't and where they end up dying. So that's just a risk that you kind of taking when you're using them, but they absolutely can fit in this way and look very nice. All right, so that's one more tip for you. Another thing you can use is water. Water, or just, it's always great to use water. I do have, since I made a decorating video last, I actually ended up downloading myself the water mod. So now if I do not have a pool towel on my lot, my water is black. It looks lovely when you do it the right way, but you know, until then. Okay, now let's say you do want to put some kind of little water feature over here for your Sims. Do not make it something in a straight line because that's really boring. Let's just get our pool towel on so that the water isn't black, so it at least looks nice. We'll hide this under a plant later. There we go. Voila. And now what I like to add here, let's just go to the right section, is I like to add a little fountain or a water feature that makes it look like the water is actually coming from somewhere. Let's just find one. I think that one may have been what I was looking for. What color? Okay, let's see if this can work. So this may need to be kind of on a wall to make it look 100% realistic. Does this work or not really? Maybe not. Okay, we can place this elsewhere, nothing's stopping us. Let's put it over there. We'll look at that later. Let's find another one. Between my tons of CC. While I see this, I should perhaps, where did I see that? I saw a very nice little statue just now that I thought I should show you. Okay, I'll get back to that. So let's use this one. Okay, shall we make it kind of brownish color? That looks like it could be. Now placing this so it makes sense. Does this make sense? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it can be. Okay, so here I have a water feature in the garden. And it looks lovely. And it has water pushing all around it. And now I'm going to make it look natural. Now my next step for you is to add potted plants. This really makes your garden look realistic. Look at what you can do with some potted plants. Just find a couple more. One. Some of these are very small. I just don't want to use the small ones. This is tiny. No, we don't want tiny pots right now. I have some other loose plants that this is also by Steph4. We can add. Let's see, does it look like it's coming out of the ground? Because that's what we want. Alright, so again the trick is to layer. You're going to layer the different levels of the plants that you use. How big is this? Work? Pot kind of doesn't match the rest of them. Let's not do that. Here's some more of that Steph4 leaves, but I don't want to overdo it with these because I am trying to show you what you can do with potted plants. So let's just see, maybe we can put one in that looks like it's kind of coming from water, but it's clipping there. Come on. Okay, let's put it off to the side for now. We'll see what we do. Okay, so we have some potted plants in. Now we're going to use our garden plants to enhance the look of this. See, some of these are very big. I don't want too big. Okay, foliage is a great way to do this because you want it to kind of look like it's naturally growing over, a little bit over the water as well, but you don't want to cover it up completely. So there's some, you get them in different colors too. This is a 4:2 low shrub by Suratan. And it's a great idea to change the color and then to also change the direction of the plant so it doesn't look boring. It's almost like when you're using paint, you know, you're creating a painting. You don't just use one color or shade of green because otherwise it's boring. Okay, now one more thing that I'd like to show you, this is another tip that you can use, is adding stones and rocks. These are by Some Addict, for instance. You get them in different colors. So I'm going to add some of these because a rock garden just gives so much life and a different direction for your plants and your garden. I love that. And look, you can use different colors, different shades, and you can, by changing the direction, you can place a bunch of them and it looks so much more natural. And then you can place plants in between these rocks as well. Just look at the picture that you're creating over here. I kind of need something small. Do I have something small that we can place? Here's a smaller version of that plant. There you go. Okay. So you can absolutely use rocks to make it more interesting. And then you can also use different colors of them. You don't want everything to look exactly the same. Because, I mean, in nature, you're not going to find all your rocks looking exactly the same either. Let's see, what is this? Granite Falls. Here's also some flowers that you can use. Let's just change the direction. We don't want everything to be going in the same direction, because that's boring. And again, terrain paint is great for giving it a little bit of life, because you don't want it to just look like everything is growing on grass and as if the water is just a hole in your grass. You want to have a bit of soil sticking out. And you don't want a straight line. You should make it look natural. There we go. Look at what you're creating over here. Look at how nice this looks. Water features are great, and I think they're completely underrated. Now here I'm going to use some of the plants that come with the stems, and I'm going to just place them, but in a way so that your sim can reach them, because you don't want your sim telling you that they cannot water this. And again, I'm going to use some other plants. This one is Granite Falls Garden Wildflowers. Let's choose a color that looks like it can go with this. And look, because this isn't in a square, I just make it look as if it's not a bed ending in some straight line. You see? And again, I am adding some terrain paint on the sides just to make it look more natural. There we go. Just look at what we've done. Look at what we've created. Can you have some open spaces? Yes, of course. You don't have to 100% fill it up with plants, so it's overwhelming. But just look at how nice this looks. This person has a whole water feature at their front door. Now the plants, the pool, unless you have a pool on the lot, this lot doesn't really have the space for a pool, so I'm going to cover this in plants, which is easy enough to do. I'll use a couple of the plants that come with the stems. Let's go pink. And I'll just cover it like this. And again, we'll just add some elements to make it look a little bit more natural. Where's some pink? No, pink. Here's pink. That's a bit big. We want a smaller version. There we go. And of course you just have to check that you don't have it clipping through the wall on the inside, because that would look really awful. Let's take a couple of rocks, but something not too big. So we do one of these. Maybe the gray. But just to make it look a little bit more natural. And again, I'm going with the soil around. I'm also using different shades of brown for the soil. It's really kind of like you're painting a painting, right? And you have different shades of green, different shades of brown. You're not using the same everywhere. And it just gives your garden that little bit extra that other gardens do not have. A nice water feature right at your front door. Alright, something else that I'd like to show you, another little tip, is adding areas for your Sims to relax in the garden. For instance, let's take a little bench. We'll use this one. Okay, so putting things like a bench at an angle is just, I won't say it's better, because perhaps your Sims will complain about it, although my Sims usually end up sitting down without complaining if I put the bench at an angle. But it just makes it look a little bit different than when it's straight and on the grid, right? I always use terrain paint around them, around the feet, because usually, I mean, especially if someone sits on a bench kind of often, the grass would show that to you. So there we go, right? And then doing a little bit of gardening around it. Of course, you don't want your Sim not to be able to reach the bench. But again, you can use potted plants. Make it a little bit more interesting. And don't put things in a circle around. It kind of looks, well, I mean, I guess people could put things down in a circle around it, but it just doesn't look very natural. So that's really small. We don't want that. Oh, this is really big. But okay, let's put one big pot next to it. And then with our garden plants, again, we don't want to overdo it, but we can, oh, this is too big. We can just enhance the look of this. More rocks. Some gray. Some in a brown. And we're changing the angle because we don't want it to look like it's just a copy paste. That's boring. But there's no smaller version of that. Okay, let's just go for some greens over here. And having things go over each other a little bit, like I mentioned before, is great because it simply gives you a more natural look. You don't want to have every single part of every plant or stone or whatever showing. Now again, we're going to use the terrain paint. Again, we're going to use the terrain paint just to make this look a little bit natural. Same here. And there you go. You don't have to put a lot of things. And it doesn't have to be symmetrical. Look, it's not symmetrical on either side of this bench. But it makes a nice little area for your Sims to sit and relax. I'm not 100% sure that your Sim would want to sit right next to the road, but okay. We'll pretend that this is somewhere else in the garden. Something else that you can do that I think a lot of people forget about is creating an area where your Sims can have a barbecue, where they can have people over. Now, I do not suggest placing a table and chairs off the grid. So I'm going to put my grid back on for this, because your Sims probably will not be able to use the table and chairs if you don't. Let's find this is one of my favorite outside tables. I don't know if it was created to be outside, but I kind of associate it with Kansas City Rose dining table. So probably it's not supposed to be an outdoor table, but I really like using it as one, and I use these outside looking chairs that I'm not sure if it came with it actually, with it. And then I have a bunch of umbrellas. This one specifically, Poinsettia gift pack from All Seasons Nursery and Logging Camp. Sandy, clay, loam, included, not recommended for poinsettias. I'm not sure. Okay, well, if you type in poinsettia gift pack, Sims 2, I'm sure you will find it. Okay, so you can change the pole. I'm going to use this one. And then this actually takes colors from a lot of things, I think, including bedding. But anyhow, I'm going to use that one. Yellow and florally and looks happy. Like you could sit under it and enjoy the shade in the summer. And we're going to put a barbecue over here. Let's just find one. We're not even going to go for expensive one. We're going to go pretty ordinary looking. There we go. And voila, your Sims have an area to barbecue and to relax. Now, if you want to enhance this further, you could, of course, go all out. And you could create an area that has a roof where they can relax. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to put a bunch of poles. I don't intend on keeping all these, just so that we actually can place it. Oh, you can't do it this far away. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to allow us. This, by the way, is by Huge Lunatic from Mod the Sims. So we're going to use this. We're going to use that. I'm not going to put on a standard roof for this. This should be good. And now what we need to do is I'm going to need to just make it look a little bit more realistic. What? It's not gonna 100% work out. Okay, let's not place anything in the middle there. Okay, now we need to remove some of these pillars because otherwise it cannot be used. So we're gonna remove a couple of them. How realistic it is that you will not have any pillar in the middle there, I don't know. but it's okay. We're not going to be bothered by it too much. Okay, so here you have a nice little area for your Sims to sit under, right? And how can you enhance this even further? Let's just, I don't think your Sims will be able to use it like that. So let's place it there. Okay. Now, why do I have this in the gardening section? Well, we're going to make this look like some plants are growing along it. I think it's under shrubs. This is another version of Ivy by Steffer, but I don't think we're going to use that one right now. Let's just go off our grid again, because we don't want to be limited. We're going to place this one, so it looks like it's growing kind of against it. We can do the same with this one. This is by Steffer. Check what the other one is. It's also yeah, this one's also by Steffer. Okay. And we're gonna do this side. All of these are by Steffer. This one we're gonna place so it's a little bit off the lot. Okay. Now let's add some bushy shrubs. This one is by Rika 15. Okay. And we're gonna place some of these. And again, I'm not going to be doing this exactly in so it's like everything has 3, everything has 2. I'm going to add more on the one side, less on the other, so it's more realistic. I'm not sure that your Sim will be able to in here if I do that. But okay, let's pretend you don't want your Sim to walk in there. What I'm doing is I'm kind of leading you in this direction with my plants. So that's my other tip. If you have a specific area that you want to make a focus area, you can absolutely use your plants to kind of lead the eye that way. So that's what I'm doing with these bushes, right? Now you can decide, do you want to make a little path there? Do you want to just leave it lawn? That's up to you. Let's add a little bit of shadow and soil here just to, again, make it look realistic. I don't want just green of one color. And now you can decide, do you want to have lawn under your Sims' feet? Do you want a paved area for them? Do you want the barbecue to be part of the paved area or not? Let's check. Maybe you want to use something like this. This is a strange color. Not really going with this. Maybe we should give them kind of a green tile. That looks like. Well, you could. Let's say you give them a little bit of a veranda. Something else that's really nice when you do use flooring in your garden, I try to just on the edge have a little bit of brown terrain spray, because it does just make it look like the grass is, you know, it's growing there, but it's having to kind of stop somewhere there. So it's not just the straight line, you know, where the tiles end and the grass start, and there's no, you know, it has to look like the grass is actually kind of trying to grow there and possibly can't. Something like that. Okay. And now if we are off our grid, so we can see what this looks like, let's add the roof. Look at the effect you're getting. You have garden in the back, and then you have your area where your Sims can sit and have their barbecue, and you have plants leading your eye towards that. That's very nice. Alright, now you should have parts of your garden that's just lawn. You should not have plants absolutely everywhere because it can look like it's too much. We've already crowded this garden quite a bit. I would say this is one of our main features. And, you know, this is kind of busy too. It's a very small garden. So there's not a lot of space here, but you can absolutely open up some areas. You do not have to have everything covered in plants. It can actually be too much, and then, you know, it doesn't create a nice effect. It's overwhelmed. Okay, but I would say this is probably the house of a old lady who loves gardening and she doesn't have a lot of space, but she's pouring her heart and soul into the part that she does have. So, you know, that's like what I would say this house strikes me as. Okay, so I hope that I gave you guys some nice advice. The final tip that I will leave you with, and this is one that people overlook often, is just to sometimes have things lying around. If you have, for instance, I mean, this is CC that you can probably download. If you have a hose pipe that's rolled down that you can place on your lawn, or you have a child's bicycle that's lying in the garden or something like that, it adds character to your garden. So for instance, if I go, let's say I'm going from the idea that this is a garden that's for an old lady that likes gardening. Okay, we're going to go for that. And we're going to say that, I think it's under this one. I just have to find it quickly. Let's say that she has specific shoes that she wears when she gardens outside. And just find something that looks like it could belong to an old lady, I mean. Okay, let's say a pair of old sneakers that she uses. And there we go. And now I leave them just outside the door. So it looks like she's going to put them on when she goes gardening, you know? Something like that. It just adds character to your builds and to your gardens. And it's just something a little bit different. Instead of just having this perfect garden where nothing is out of place, add some character to it, you know, give a hose pipe that's lying on the ground, or some garden equipment that hasn't been put away, or something like that. It makes it look more homey, and it creates a completely lived-in look that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that would be my final and my biggest tip for you, is to make your garden lived in. Make it appear as if something was left out and not taken back in, not placed where it was supposed to be. Don't make it look perfect, you know? Leave something out, like for instance, here's her bucket. She didn't put her bucket away. There's her gardening shoes. It makes it look alive, which is what you want when you're playing The Sims. You're not just doing some set dressing that, you know, has no life in it. You want it to look like someone actually lives there. So yeah, there we go. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm wishing you lots of happy simming hours. Please be blessed, take care, and be safe. Goodbye.